Okay, well, the Major League Baseball lockout has ended, and it was the second longest stoppage in Major League Baseball history at 99 days officially as of ratification of this new CBA. And while the league minimum salary has gone up and the playoffs have been expanded, and there's been changes to the arbitration and bits that the players wanted, the owners still come out as winners, and there wasn't universal agreement within the Players Association to vote in favour of this CBA. There were still those who voted against. It wasn't unanimous. So I can see issues down the line within the Major League Baseball Players Association, and the league minimum salary, while it's gone up, is still below the NHL, which is the third highest league minimum salary at $750,000. Major League Baseball is at $700,000. And another thing that has been noted and been discussed by those in the media, sports experts, is attracting younger fans, because the fan base of Major League Baseball is an aging fan base and therefore will be a declining fan base. Now, while Major League Baseball is still earning massive revenues on a good year, so let's say take 2019 as an example of a non-disrupted, non-COVID year, they made $10 billion in revenue. The NHL made $5 billion. Yet the NHL minimum contract is still higher after this CBA agreement than Major League Baseball. And looking at the facts and figures, and we did break them down, I've done it on live stream, discussed it on live streams recently, over 60% of players are earning less than $1 million as of last year. So a huge majority of the player base is earning, in professional sports terms, low salaries, just because the top end talent is getting paid massive contracts. The actual majority of players playing in the league, their pay in real terms is quite low. And another problem, especially what the Blue Jays will find, is when it comes to free agency and signing that free agent talent, for example. The taxes in Canada are generally higher than the US, and other leagues have found this, especially the NHL, when it comes to free agency. Signing that available player when they're available, very few of them want to go to a Canadian market. They want to go to an American market, especially those American markets like Arizona or Florida, which have very low tax rates. And that is a problem I think the Blue Jays are going to find going forward without a salary cap, is they're going to struggle to sign free agents. And that is what's striking, is they still have the luxury tax in place, and they haven't decided to replace that with a salary cap. Now, the owners have voted in favour of their proposal, obviously, because they're the ones who put it on the table, all 30 of them. They got what they wanted, expanded playoffs to, expand the revenue, less than what they wanted. However, they wanted 14, the players wanted 12. They settled on 12. That was a negotiation kind of meeting point where I think there could be some compromise. Of course, the league minimum salary was a massive sticking point for the players. That has gone up, as I say, but I don't think it's gone up enough, considering the revenues that the league brings in. Considering that a league that brings in half as much revenue has still got a higher minimum salary, and surprisingly enough, has a salary cap. So there's still issues with the luxury tax system. It doesn't benefit every team, doesn't make sure every team is competitive. So smaller market teams actually are harmed by the luxury tax, whereas those teams that can afford to pay the luxury tax fine will still spend the money. There is no cap in place. So, for example, the Yankees or the Red Sox, they have the deep pockets. Their merchandise, for example, is seen as a fashion statement. So I'll have to find my Yankees gear, because I do have a fair bit of New York Yankees clothing apparel, as the term is, so hats, t-shirts and such. People who don't even watch baseball buy Yankees gear because it's seen as a fashion statement, so their merchandise sales are massive. The Orioles, the Baltimore Orioles, how many people do you see wearing Baltimore gear? How many people do you see wearing Atlanta Braves gear, for example? Outside of the US and outside of that market, globally, you don't see a lot of it. Whereas the Yankees, to a certain extent the Red Sox, the Dodgers, you will see a lot of that merchandise being worn by non-Major League Baseball fans, because it is actually quite fashionable to wear such stuff. So merchandise sales, so smaller market teams, not only are they harmed by the luxury tax, their merchandise sales, they are a smaller market, therefore they sell less merchandise. Sort of works out that way. How they market themselves to a younger audience as well, because the average age of a Major League Baseball fan is above average. should we say. So the average is seen as late 30s to early 40s, that kind of 35 to 45 bracket. If you're looking at baseball's demographic, it's more 45 to 55. So younger fans are choosing other sports or other hobbies to be involved in. If you are going to a kid in the street and to ask them what sport do you like, who do you resonate with as a sporting role model, they're more likely to say an NFL player, an NHL player, an NBA player like LeBron James, Conor McDavid in the NHL. I know he's just retired, but Tom Brady. Over here in the UK, we know who these guys are. We know that these guys are superstars. I could not name you a single Major League Baseball player over here in the UK. Partly because I don't follow the sport, but I do have friends who do. But I couldn't name you a single Major League Baseball pitcher, batter, catcher. Couldn't name you one. And that's a problem. It is not only connecting with the domestic audience and the younger audience, but the overseas audience as well. And trying to, with the London series they had before COVID, it got mixed reviews. Other leagues promote themselves better, so it's that promotion of the product is important. And I'm not seeing a lot of that with this CBA. It's just tweaking the existing structures in place and improving them somewhat for the players, but not overly, and the owners will still be raking in massive profits. Massive profits. And the players earn a little bit more on the league minimum salary. That's it. Smaller market teams will still have one or two good seasons and their roster gets broken up. Expand the playoffs, again, that increases revenues more for the owners than the players. So all I'm seeing is the core issues with Major League Baseball. Within the next 5 years, we could see a player strike, and we could possibly see yet another protracted CBA negotiation in 5 years' time, or if not before. The players may not be happy with the current CBA and may decide to go on strike. And if you look at the 70s to the 90s, that was a regular thing. I've done two videos on the labour unrest within Major League Baseball between 72 and 95. It was constant. It was almost once every 2 to 3 years. Players were down tools or there would be a lockout. Now, the longest one was the 94-95 players' strike. This is the second longest work stoppage. But if we look at history, since 95 until now is the longest labour peace since 1972 the league's had. And it's been precarious. And I don't think after all these negotiations and the collapse in those negotiations several times that there's a lot of good faith and trust between the players and the league. And while play will be resuming in just over a month's time and the season will start on the 14th of April, I can see there being issues within the Players Association itself because they're somewhat disunited between the players and their executive board. And I can see issues with this CBA agreement where players will be looking at that league minimum salary and saying, why are we still getting paid less than the NHL when our league earns twice as much money? So you'll be looking at that going, okay, we have a greater chance of making the playoffs, but I'm on $700,000 a year. A player in the NHL, a league that earns half as much, is on $50,000 more than me per year. And that's not including escrow and retained payments and things to do with obviously the COVID pandemic. But they will look at that and they will start comparing wages with other leagues going, they're getting paid more than us. And that might rankle with the players a little bit. Are we being adequately compensated for what we do on the field? So, and there has been a breakdown in trust between Manfred, the commissioner, and the playing group as well. And that's something that could linger on. If there's another incident like an Astro sign stealing scandal, another issue on or off field where the commissioner's office gets involved, we could see, more issues down the line, because how Major League Baseball dealt with the Astro sign stealing scandal, I felt was pretty weak and wasn't strong enough. And there was a lot of, unrest in the playing group. Fast forward, 12 months in the resumption to play talks during COVID in 2020. Again, not negotiating in good faith. The Players Association and the league both went, we'll allow the CBA to lapse. We're not going to try and negotiate a new one. The owners go, right, we'll lock you out. Just over 3 months later, they finally come to an agreement, a tenuous agreement in my opinion. So how long will labour peace last? with this new CBA? That's a question I'm going to leave for you guys to answer in the comments section below. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll have some more videos for you very, very soon.